What's going on, everybody? My name is George Anderson over here at REI Branded Home Buyer. Today's topic is about buying land and how we use that land and turn it into a potential development for residential or commercial spaces. Now, I have done a residential development about a year ago. It's about 14 houses here in Spokane, and we're going to go into some details about that here in a second. But if you don't want to know anything about that specifically and you just want to sell your land to a home buyer like myself, you can go to www.reibrandedhomebuyer.com, and there's a little form on the website that you can fill out. It'll go directly to our email and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. Now, I understand that you might own some land here in Spokane or anywhere in Washington for that matter, but there's some need to know things about your land before selling it and how much you can get for your land here in Washington. There is a zoning pamphlet that our cities put out. In the planning and development of every single city, there is a zoning map that comes with everything that has to do with planning and development. The ones that I focus on the most are R3 zoning, which would be residential 33, and that goes where you can subdivide your land down to about 5,000 square foot lots here in Spokane. There's also the zoning that I focus on that is called multifamily zoned. R3 is colored yellow, and multifamily zoned is colored like a brownish color. And you are allowed to put around 20 houses or 20 units per acre of multifamily zoned, and around, they say 9 houses for R3 because there's 45,000 square feet of land per acre, and it's 5,000 square feet per lot that you can go down. However, you can only really fit 7 per acre because the city's going to make us, the developers, put a street with some easements in, depending, or maybe they have setbacks for storm drainage and all that stuff, or maybe there is a seasonal creek that goes on the property. We just had that come in about 2 weeks ago that we had to look into, because you have to have a setback away from that seasonal creek. Even though it's not running, it's still considered a creek, and the city's going to make you have a setback, or they're going to make certain requirements on your land. So again, if you have an acre of land, you can potentially put only 7 houses per acre due to the fact that you got to put in a street, maybe some sidewalks, some curbing, and then also maybe a little easement. And then streets are generally around 30 feet wide. Then you have your curbing, then you have your setback, then you have sidewalks. About 45 to 50 feet going down the center of that acre is completely taken by the city. And what we do when we buy houses or when we buy land from house owners like yourself is we can pay per lot when we purchase that property from you. So we generally pay around 15-ish per lot, depending on if it's flat, depending on if there's rock or there's a certain type of dirt that is there. There's 3 different types of sediments that we have to worry about when it comes to this, because there's a lot of planning that goes into this. There's silt, sand, and clay that we got to worry about. And those 3 things can determine the value of your property. Also, how close it is to city centers, how far it is from the improvements of the city. So one of the properties we were looking at the other day was down a private road. And if we did decide to develop this property, since it was away from the main road, we would actually have to do all of the improvements on the main property, all the improvements on the private street. So that means we would have to bring in the road, all the asphalt, and also sidewalks and curbing. So that raises the cost of doing the development to that property. And that can potentially kill a deal. Sorry, YouTube, I didn't mean to say that word. It could actually destroy a deal, right? Because now cost of improvements have went up quite a bit, substantially. And that will actually bring the value of your land down too. So you got to take all this into account when you're developing a property. Is the water and the sewer and the electrical within 5 feet to 10 feet of the property? I know on my development, the last time we did it, the contractor had to go into the road 3 times, and that's not a good idea. You need to go into the road once. Pull all the electric, the sewer, the gas, and the communications lines out of the road and out of the easement onto the property all at once, because the city really wants you to close that road down once. They don't want to close it down again. And the reason why they don't want you closing it down so many times is because there's emergency vehicles that they have to get in contact with and let them know. School bus routes have to be rerouted. So you got to let them know weeks ahead of time before you close the street down. There's also issues with residents that live on that street, right? You're impacting their drive time to and from their house. So you only want to go into the road once and pull all that stuff onto the property. That is really difficult to balance. So when we offer a price on an acre or 2 acres or 3 acres, which we bought 2.67 acres, and we were able to subdivide that into 15 lots here in Spokane Valley, actually, north of Trent. It was a lot of work. So I can understand if you don't want to do this yourself and you want to call us and you want to sell your house or your land to us. And like I said, if you want to go to www.reibrandedhomebuyer.com, you can fill that form out, and then we can come out and see if we can make an offer on your property. But it's a ton of work doing this. It generally can take up to a year and a half, and a lot of resources too, because you're looking at $50,000 to $70,000 per lot that you're going to use to develop that lot, so that you can have a home builder. If you do decide not to sell it to a builder, that's the only time they're going to take it, when it's completely platted out by the city. To get that final plat, you're going to need to put in water, sewer, electric, gas, communications lines, asphalt, curbing, all sorts of swells on top of that. And it'll drain your resources pretty quickly. Not to mention, it'll try your stress levels and test your mettle. And believe me, it tested my mettle, especially with a city like Spokane or Spokane Valley. Spokane Valley is a lot simpler to deal with, but they do have their rules. And when you get all of this improvements put into the property, you have to do it up to their specifications. And the reason why they want it up to their specifications is because they're going to maintain it for the foreseeable future. They want it to last for 100 years. So they're going to have their inspectors. Their inspectors are going to watch the whole process, but they're not going to send their inspectors out to do the engineering for the project. And you're going to have civil engineers come out. You're going to have geological engineers come out and test the compaction of the streets, where the streets go, because they don't want to have potholes or anything like that within 2 years of this street actually getting put in, right? Also, you got to get a bond for 2 years, up to 2 years of after you finish it. So if anything happens to that property after you're done platting it out, you are liable for any and all inconsistencies in the sewer line. So they call them bellies. So a sewer line has to have a fall, but in the middle of the sewer, say right here, if it has a belly, if the water can actually get stagnant. And if the city comes through and they run a video line down that a year later and they say, oh, there's a belly, you have to cut open the street. You have to dig down 10 to 15 feet to get to that sewer line and get that belly out. That is potential cost right there in itself, right? So when you put all these sewer lines in, all these water lines in, all of these streets, sidewalks, you're going to potentially gift that to the city. So you're giving them potentially millions of dollars, because the city's not going to do it. You're the one that's going to do it. And then you're going to gift it to them on their terms. So when you get a bond at the very end of this, it's gonna be extremely stressful, because now you're like, oh, I'm personally on the line for this for the foreseeable future. If there's a problem that arises, I have to take this out of my wallet and I got to fix it. So hopefully your contractor is really good. All right, let's move to multifamilies. Multifamily lots are in neighborhoods that the city wants high density residential. So like usually near like a high population area, especially here off of Sullivan in Spokane Valley. I think within a mile of that road going north and south, there's a lot of multifamily zoned area there. Now, you can only build a certain height until you have to put elevators in and stuff like that. So once you get the elevators, the cost goes up. Multifamily, you can do 20 units per acre. And this is where things start to get a little bit crazy. You can pay per door, like a cash home buyer like myself. What we do is we break it down per door. And then we say, okay, what can we buy the land from you at per door? We can only fit 20 doors on this property. We would like to get it at this price per door, because there's rock, there's silt, clay, maybe we got to bring in some different topsoils, or maybe we have to bring in some different soils for the bedding, for the structure itself. Maybe it's not sitting on rock, maybe there's too much rock. So that all plays a role in our offer to you. Again, if you want to go to our website, www.reibrandedhomebuyer.com, you can fill out that form if you want to sell your land in Spokane, and we'll get back to you and we'll come out and look at your property and see what can happen. Also, we're not real estate agents or lawyers or financial advisors. We're just people that go out and buy land in Spokane. That's all we do. Or we also buy houses, and I can talk about that in the next video, but these are very resource intensive projects. If you want to find out a little bit more about us, go to our website and we can help you, maybe point you in the right direction too, or maybe you want to talk to us and sell it to us. We would love to buy your property, and we would love to develop it for you and see what you can do with that property. But if you like to find out what the real value of your property is here in Spokane, we can just fill that information out and we'll come out, we'll make an appointment, we'll come out and we'll take a look at your property, We'll take a look at your land. We'll take a look at your house, and we'll package that all together. We'll sit there and talk about how this can happen, and we'll give you a fair cash offer. And if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. No harm, no foul. But at least you got the information that you needed to move forward, right? Again, I'm George from REI Branded Home Buyer. We're going to add some more information on our next video. This one's getting kind of long, 16 minutes. If you stayed this long, thank you so much. And we'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.